Everyone, welcome to Math 3333 Research in Mathematics. So, we are the group 8 and we're going to report chapter 8, which is all about tools of research. I am Maria Isabel Rodriguez, and with me, Sir Ellison Enrique, and we are your reporters for today's chapter. First, we are going to talk about what are the objectives of this chapter. After studying this chapter, the students will be able to explain the role of measurement in research, access sources such as mental measurements yearbook and tests in print to obtain information necessary for evaluating standardized tests and other measuring instruments. Third one, state the difference between a test and a scale. May pagkakaiba nga ba sila? May pagkakatulad ba silang dalawa or wala talaga? Next, distinguish between norm reference and criterion reference tests. I know na familiar naman tayong lahat dito, di ba? Since napag-aralan naman na natin to sa assessment subject natin, but we are going to tackle it later on. Distinguish between measures of aptitude and achievement test. Distinguish between ceiling effect and floor effect and discuss why this may be a concern. Describe the steps to follow in preparing a Likert scale for measuring attitudes. Next one, define performance assessment and discuss its advantages and disadvantages. Alam ko familiar na din kayo sa performance assessment, but we are also going to tackle it later on. The ninth one, describe the characteristic of a bipolar adjective scale. State the kinds of errors that are common to rating scales. State the advantages and disadvantages of self-report personality measures. And then list at least 5 guidelines that a researcher should follow while using direct observation as a data gathering technique. And then define a situation test and tell when it might be used in research. And then lastly, state the essential characteristic of a projective technique and name at least 2 well-known projective techniques. So we are now going to tackle our lesson 4. Measurement in research. So what comes to your mind when you hear the word measurement in research? Some of you might think, wala, magme-measure sa scale, sa tools, questionnaires, or some might think about test. Diba? Kasi ano nga ba ang mini-measure natin? Ano ang pang-measure? Parang ganon. So, what is measurement in research? It is used as a single indicator to represent a variable in research. So when we say measurement, it is an instrument used by researchers or practitioners to aid the assessment or evaluation to collect data on a variety of variables ranging from physical functioning and then to psychosocial well-being of that respondents you are going to subject it to. Next one, how to select an appropriate and useful measuring instrument. Paano nga ba? Meron nga bang guide kung paano? Let's see. So we have here the researcher should look scales or instrument that can be measured complex structures. Tama nga naman. The researcher should look at the research that has been published on his or her question to determine what other researchers have used to measure the construct of interest. If the researchers couldn't find a previously developed instrument, then they must develop their own. So, overall, kunyari, yung research question mo, same interest kayo nung na-publish na, pwede mo yung gawing guide na para ma-measure yung mismong interest na kaya gusto mong ma-measure. And then, dapat yung instrument mo or yung scale mo is connected or dapat appropriate sa mga variables na gagamitin mo. Hindi naman pwede na hindi connected yung instrument na gagamitin mo dito sa question na to or sa instrument na gagamitin mo. Hindi na yun valid or reliable kasi hindi na sila aligned to each other. So, if wala namang mahanap na previous na published na research na, pwede silang gumawa ng sarili or we can create our own instrument. Next one. So we are going to move on with what are the open access sources to obtain necessary for evaluating standardized tests and other measuring instruments. So here are the examples of open sources that you can see on the internet. These sources are used to provide an index of all commercially available text in print at the time with information or on publisher and date of publication. So, hindi na mahihirapang maghanap ng sources upon evaluating standardized tests and other measuring instrument. Kasi, makikita naman na natin yung mga, kung sino nga ba ang nag-publish nito, anong date siya pinublish, anong year siya pinublish, yung mga ganun. Hindi na tayo mahihirapan. And internet is very fast now. So, ito yung mga printed materials na nagko-contain ng reviews of all English language standardized tests which are related to areas like in printed mental measurements yearbook. Next one. Next, we have here test. So, when we say test, what comes into your mind? Some might think about assessment, evaluation, right? So, when we say test is a valuable measuring instrument for educational research. It is a set of stimuli presented to an individual in order to elicit responses on the basis of which a numerical score can be assigned. So, this is an example of a tool where researchers or practitioners aid to the assessment of the respondents and then it measures or collect data on a variety of variable depending on the research questions you are going to give. So, what must a test have? Objectivity. Next, validity, and then lastly, reliability. These three are very important. The test and the objective of what you want must be aligned, valid and reliable. These two must be present all the time, because what is the use of if it is valid but it is not reliable, then it is not a good test. It must be valid and then reliable on the other hand. And for further information to deepen your understanding about reliability, the group 9 will discuss reliability and validity. Next, called about tests. Now we are going to talk about the different kinds of test. Now, we have here achievement test. When we say achievement test, this test measures the mastery and proficiency in the different areas of knowledge by presenting subjects with standard set of questions involving completion of cognitive tasks. When we say achievement test, it is more on the cognitive domain. Then there are two types of achievement tests we have here. The standardized test, which means these are published tests that have resulted from careful and skillful preparation by experts and cover broad academic objectives common to the majority of school systems. Then research-made tests. These tests can be tailored to be content-specific, that is, it will match more closely to the content that was covered in the classroom or in the research study. So, the standardized test is usually used in classroom settings, while the research-made test is more specific in objective, and it is more on research area. Moving on, how to distinguish between norm reference and criterion reference test. Norm reference and criterion reference test is a teacher-made test. So we have here the norm reference test. So when we say norm reference test, it permits the researchers to compare individuals' performance on the test to the performance of other individuals, to a normative group. And then we have here criterion reference test. It enables the researchers to describe what a specific individual can do without the reference to the performance of other. Sa madaling salita, yung norm reference test nangangailangan ng i-compare sa performance ng iba. Well, sa criterion, parang may rubric na siyang sinusunod or standard na sinusunod at hindi na kailangan i-compare yung performance ng individual na yon. Next one, performance test. I know that almost all of you are familiar with this test since we have assessment subject. So when we say performance test, these are used to measure abilities and skills that cannot be measured by paper and pencil tests. This is time intensive and thus more expensive to administer and score since medyo mas matagal. Let's say for example, role plays, dancing, singing, mas mahirap siyang i-check kumbaga. Nangangailangan talaga ng time to check. And nag-create din siya ng more holistic view para sa mga student to learn. And then next, advantage and disadvantage of performance tests. So what are the advantages of performance assessment? We have here, it can measure abilities and skill that cannot be measured by paper and pencil test, as I've said earlier. Next, provide an opportunity for teachers and researchers to gain more holistic view of changes in the students' performance over time. Kasi meron kasing nag-excel sa traditional way of assessment, and then meron ding nag-excel sa performance test. Next, disadvantages of performance assessment. When we say disadvantages, very time consuming. Yes, that's correct. It can possibly be costly, relies heavily on student initiative and drive, relies heavily on specific skill set of the students. Result can be subjective. It can be time consuming, mahal, nakadepende kung mag-effort ba yung mga estudyante sa performance na gagawin nila or hindi, at saka sa specific skill na kailangan ng student in that performance task na kailangan nilang i-perform. Next one, constructing a performance test. Paano nga ba mag-construct? So, these are the 3 basic steps. First, begin with a clear statement of objectives and what individuals will be asked to do and the conditions under which the task will be performed. So first, mag-iisip ng objectives. Dapat yung objective na yon ma-align dapat sa gusto mong i-measure. Next, provide a problem or an exercise that give the students an opportunity to perform either a simulation or an actual task. All individuals must be asked to perform the same task. Develop an instrument like checklist, rating scale, or something similar that lists the relevant criteria to use in evaluating the performance or the product. Sa paggawa ng performance test, dapat align yung objective mo, and then the students are all participating. No one must left behind, and all the tasks must be the same as others. And especially when constructing a performance test, there must be a criteria you need to create on how you are going to score them or evaluate their performance or product. Here, the test performance range, and we have 2 types of testing effects. We have here the ceiling effect, and it occurs when many of the score on the measure are at the near the maximum possible score. And then we have here the floor effect. It occurs when a test is too difficult and many scores are near the minimum possible scores. So, ano nga bang example ng ceiling effect? Let's say, for example, the negatively skewed distribution. Marang, kung titignan natin sa picture, mas marami yung nakakuha ng high score kesa sa low score. Kaya nagiging negatively skewed distribution siya. Which this negatively skewed distribution was discussed previously by group 6. And then the floor effect is the counter of the negatively skewed, which is positively skewed distribution, which is the scores are near the minimum. Parang mas madami yung nakakuha ng lower scores kesa sa nakakuha ng high scores. And that's all. Moving on to our aptitude test. So when we say aptitude test, it is also known as the intelligence test or scholastic aptitude test. This attempt to measure the general ability or potential of the learning of body of knowledge and skills. We have here the individual aptitude test and the group aptitude test. So in the individual aptitude test, we are talking about comparing individuals' performance with the norms obtained from his or her group through the use of standard score, which was discussed by previous group, which is group 6. And then we have here an example of individual aptitude test, which is Stanford Binet Intelligence Skill 4th edition. And the group test of aptitude is more like individual, but since individual aptitude test is very expensive, they came up with this idea during World War, I guess, to save money and time. They create a group test of aptitude, which measures a large group of individuals. So we have here the personality. There are different theoretical point of view. Researchers must know precisely what to what they wish to measure, and then select the measurement, paying particular attention to the evidence of its validity. There are two approaches used to measure personality. We have here the objective personality assessment, and it have a self-report inventories. So when we say self-report inventories, these are subjects with an extensive collection of statements describing the behavior patterns. When we say behavior patterns, these are describing the behavior of an defined group. It is used in educational research to obtain trait description of a certain defined group, and different self-report inventories that measures only one trait. So these are the following examples of different self measurements. These are the measurement that measures only one trait. We have here the California F scale, measures the authoritarianism. We have here the Cattell 16 personality factor questionnaire, measures a number of traits of different self-report inventories to measures the multiple trait. So we have here Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory, measures the personality traits and psychopathology suspected of having mental issues. This is the inventories that measures multiple trait. We have here also Guilford Zimmerman temperament survey, measures the describing of an individual's personality and temperament. And then money problem checklist, contain problem areas such as courtship, sex and marriage, health and physical development, home, family, morals and religions, more like social demographics. We also have here Edwards personal preference schedule. It is a forced choice, objective, non-projective personality inventory. Myers-Briggs type indicator is a personality tool that is based on a theory of psychological type by C.J. Jung. It helps people to understand and use their perception and judgment preference, which affect their behavior, interests, values, motivations, and skills. And we also have here the strong interest inventory, helps individuals identify their work personality by exploring their interest in 6 broad areas. So we have here the realistic, artistic, investigative, social, enterprising, and conventional, or also known as RIASEC. And we have here also adjective checklist. It is a psychological assessment containing 300 adjectives used to identify common psychological traits, and Harrison G. Goff and Alfred B. Hofburn Jr. created this one. And I'm giving the floor to Sir Ellison, and he is going to discuss to you about different types of skill, what is skill, and so on. Sir Ellison.
Hello, good day everyone. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So, anumang oras mong panoorin to, at least nabati ko kayo sa lahat. So, hello, I am Ellison Gilbert O. Enriquez. So, I am here to continue the discussion about tools of research. So, now let's go to the scales. So, Ma'am Isabel already discussed the first, which is the test. So now we will go to the scales. So what are scales? So let's define scales. So sabi dito, scales are used to measure attitudes, values, opinions, and other characteristics that are not easily measured by tests or other measuring instruments. So scales, ginagamit natin ito para sa yung which is direct, not direct observation, parang hula-hula muna tayo, ini-scale natin sila kung ano yung values nila, attitudes nila, opinions nila, parang ganon. Then now, scaling. So what is scaling? So scaling is the process if assigning scores to those objects in order to obtain a measure of a construct. So scaling is the process. So ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng scales sa test? So meron pinagkaiba, at least yun. So sabi dito, scales differ from tests in the result of these instruments. Unlike those of tests, do not differ. Tests indicate success or failures, strength or weakness. So makikita natin doon yung sa test, merong kahinatnan na which is yung mataas na score, low score, ganon. Sa scales, ni-scale mo lang siya, ni-rate mo lang, parang ganon. So, for example, a researcher may use a scale to measure the attitude of college through the religion. So, syempre, magkakaiba naman tayo ng perception about religion. So, i-scale lang natin siya, which is kung i-test natin, so merong strength or weakness na matatanggap. So yun lang sa scale. So sa scales, meron tayong iba't ibang type, ganun, which is yung una, which is yung attitude scale. So ano nga ba yung attitude scale? So uses multiple response, usually responds to statements, and combine the responses into a single score scale. So, mayroon daw tayong multiple responses. Madaming tayong pagpipilian na sasagot sa mga statement natin na kung saan connecta sa interest natin. So, sabi nito, an attitude may be defined as a positive or negative effect towards a particular group. So, meron tayong sinasabing positive, syempre, hindi naman lahat nakaakma sa'yo or sa grupo yung statement. Pwede ding negative effect towards a particular group, sabi nga dito. So, may nakalagay dito na note, if the researchers cannot locate an existing attitude scale on their topic of interest, they must develop their own scales for measuring attitude. So, nakanote naman dito na kung saan, kung wala daw existing attitude scale na para sa topic natin, pwede tayong gumawa ng sarili natin. Pero as we here, meron tayong two types of attitude scale. So, meron tayong two types. So, unahin na natin yung isa, which is yung summated or Likert scales. So, pronounced as Likert. Name from Francis Likert, which is who developed these scales. So, let's define Likert scale. So, assess attitudes toward a topic by presenting a set of statements about the topic and asking respondents to include for each whether they strongly agree until strongly disagree. So, strongly disagree, agree, undecided, disagree, or strongly disagree. So, ito yung sinatawag nating multiple responses. So, hindi lang naman strongly agree, or yung pwede nating pagpilian, madami pa namang iba. So, parang ito lang yung pinaka-basic. So, it is constructed by assembling large number of statements about an object, approximately half of which express clearly favorable attitude and half of which is clearly unfavorable attitude. So, ano ba nga ba yung favorable attitude and unfavorable attitude? So, isasabihin natin mamaya. So, as we can see here, sorry kung tawag nito, maliit siya. So, meron tayong example dito ng attitude, summated or Likert scales na example, which is sabi dito sa number 1, capital punishment serves as a deterrent or premeditated crime. So meron tayong pagpipilian na yung SA, which is strongly agree, undecided disagree, or strongly disagree. So meron tayong nakikita dito na which is yung may asterisk, yung number 2, 4, 5. Sila naman tinatawag na negative. So yung walang asterisk, which is yung positive. Yung negative statement, which is capital punishment is morally wrong. So negative statement siya. So unfavorable statement yon, yung tawag doon. So next slide. So dito sa Likert scale. So paano nga ba tayong mag-score sa Likert scale? So sabi dito, score the scale. The response categories must be weighted for favorable or positive stated items. Strongly agree is scored 5 until strongly disagree is scored 1. For unfavorable statement, revise lang, which is yung for strongly disagree is 5 and 1 for strongly disagree. So yun yung scoring natin kung positive stated items, which is yung favorable, strongly agree is 5, then strongly disagree yung 1. So unfavorable, balik ta rin lang. So meron tayo, so ito yung 6 na responses natin. I-6 na lang natin kasi nga mahirap para mas madali nating maintindihan. So responses and the score. So sa number 1, which is yung D, which is disagree, nag-score lang siya ng 2 kasi nga positive stated siya. So 5 yung strongly disagree, agree is 4, undecided is 3, disagree is 2 sa positive stated item. So 2 lang yung score niya. So number 2, which is negative stated, strongly agree, which is 1. So makikita na natin dito, number 3 is D is 2. So disagree is 2. So dito sa number 4, negative stated siya, which is yung agree. So diba 5 for strongly disagree, 4 sa disagree, 3 sa undecided, and 2 sa agree kapag unfavorable or negative statement. So paano ba tayo mag-scoring sa Likert scale? So ganito lang. So pag-aarin natin yung score. So 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus is equal to 12. 12 over 6, which is 2. So the mean score is less than 2. We conclude that this individual has a moderate negative attitude toward capital punishment. So mean score is less than 2. So ang mean score natin dito is 3 dapat ata, o 3 kasi nga nasa gitna. Individual has a moderate negative attitude. Moderate negative pa lang naman siya toward the capital punishment. So naintindihan po ba sa Likert scale? So kung naintindihan po, then let's proceed to another attitude. Ay, meron pa pala, which is the item analysis. So alam naman na natin yung item analysis sa pagkakaintindi, pero define pa rin natin. So the researcher does an item analysis to identify the best functioning items. So this item analysis typically yields 3 statistical for each item, which is yung item discrimination, the percentage of respondents marking each choose to each item, and item mean and standard deviation. So item analysis, alam naman na natin to kung saan yung every item inaaral natin kung nagfa-function ba siya sa ating interest. So parang dito yung discrimination of index calculated by correlating item scores with total scale scores, a procedure usually done by computer. So, pwede naman natin gawin siya, pero mas mahirap lang kasi kapag mano-mano. So, if a high score on a individual item have a high total score, and if a low scores on this item have total low scores, then the item is discriminating in the same way the total score. So, meron naman tayong tinatawag na discrimination index, which is may mga points kung saan, kung parang ang dali, ganon, tapos madaming nakakuha ng tama sa test, parang sa test, ganon, discrimination index. Kung ang madaming nakakakuha, so yun nga. At sabi din dito, to be useful, an item should correlate at least 0.25 with the total score. So, dapat nasa 0.25 lang daw siya sa total score para hindi siya ma-discriminate. So, now, let's go to the validity. Validity ng Likert. So, concerns with the extent to which the scale really measures the attitude construct of interest. It is often difficult to locate criteria to be used in obtaining evidence for validity of attitude scale. So, validity, which is construct of interest, really measures the attitude construct of interest. So, dapat yung interest, yun talaga yung hinahanap. Hindi paligoy-ligoy kung saan-saan yung mga mini-measures natin. So, one of easiest ways to gather validity evidence is to determine the extent to which the scale is capable of discriminating between two groups whose members are known to have a different attitude. So parang to validate the scale that the measures attitude toward organized religion, a researcher would determine if the scale is discriminate between active church member and people who do not attend church or no church affiliation. So, magkaiba yon. So, a scale measuring attitudes towards sa active church at saka sa tao na hindi naman pumupunta, have no church, discriminated. Parang doon mo makikita kung valid ba siya or hindi. So, let's go to reliability. Concerns with the extent to which the measure would yield consistent result each time it is used. Mass long enough means enough items directly related to the length of the scale. So sabi nga dito, mas long enough means enough items. So, para reliable siya, dapat madami kang items na kung saan masasagot niya yung mga hinahanap mong interest sa mga results mo. So, sabi nga din dito, directly related to the length of the scale. So, sa scale din naman, dapat related talaga siya. So, yun lang. Now, let's proceed to another type of attitude scale, which is yung bipolar adjective scales. So, present a respondent with at least a list of adjectives that have bipolar or opposite meanings. So, sabi lang dito, bipolar, which is magpipili ka sa dalawa, which is by, dalawa nga. Adjective, alam naman natin yung adjectives, mga words of adjectives lang, good, bad, ganun, fast, slow. So, pinagsama lang dito, present and responded with at least of adjectives of bad. Na yung adjective natin, which is opposite meanings, sabi nga, yung good at saka bad, fast, slow. So, meron tayong examples dito, which is yung figure 8.2. So, nilalagyan lang natin ng check mark kung saan siya kung saan mo siya i-scale. So, parang sa school, there's a bad and the good, fast and slow. So, dull, and sharp. So, kailangan mo lang dito is yung adjective na opposite meanings, then i-scale mo sila kung saan. So, paano din ba yung scoring dito sa may bipolar adjective scale? So, tingnan natin dito. So, scoring bipolar adjective scale. So, nakikita natin which is yung bad and good, which is 7 points. So, yung kung nasaan sila, yun yung check kanina. So, dito, bad and good, 7 points. Fast and slow, 6 points. So, paano nangyari yon? Na 7 yung andito, naging 6 points dito. So, parang kanina, which is yung negative and positive stated lang din. So, kung positive stated, dun mas mataas yung points, which is good, 7. So, yung paganto, magiging 5, ay 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 na. Pero dito sa letter B, which is fast, is the positive stated. So, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, as we can see here, pleasant is 7 also, and light is in the middle, 3. So, paano natin i-solve yan? So, parang gawin din lang, item weights are 7, i-add natin, plus 6, plus 6, plus 7, plus 3, plus 7, plus 6, plus 4, plus 5 is equal to 51. Divide sa ilang items ito, which is 9. So, this is equal to 5.67. So, the score of 5.67 indicates a very positive attitude toward the school. So, very positive siya kasi mas mataas siya sa mean natin. So, yun lang sa adjective scales. So, and bipolar adjective scale. So, ang hinahanap lang dito is, so sabi nga dito, the bipolar adjective scale is a very flexible approach of measuring attitudes. So, a researcher can use it to investigate attitudes toward any concept, person, or activity in any setting. It is much easier and less time consuming kasi nga sabi dito, it's easier and less time consuming to construct kaysa dun sa my Likert scale kasi nga madaming statement na kailangan dun. Pero dito, dalawang adjectives lang ang kailangan, bad, good. The positive adjective andyan naka negative adjective scale lang, pero so kailangan approximately 20 statements sa Likert scale. Kailangan mo lang dito yung sinasabi kong 4 to 8 adjective pairs. So it requires very little reading time by participants, so madali lang mababasa. The main difficult lang is selection of adjectives na naka-suit sa inyong interest or sa behavior na hinahanap natin. So, pero hindi naman na siya kasi problema kasi nga mayroon din naman siyang reference na pwede nating pagkuhanan, which is yung Osgood, Susi, and Tamen Baam 1967 that provide the list of bipolar adjective scales. So, Osgood, Susi, and Tanimbaum. Pwede nating maging reference yon. So, 19 okay na po tayo sa attitude scales. Now, let's proceed to the rating scales. So, let's define rating. Present a number of statement about behavior, an activity, or a phenomenon with a accompanying scale of categories. Respondents are asked to indicate their assessment or judgment about the behavior. So, sinasabi lang dito na i-assess mo yung makikita mong behavior. So, judgment. So, i-judge mo lang siya. For example, a teacher might be asked to rate the leadership ability of students. So, i-ask ko kung ano yung leadership ability ng isang leader. So, the teacher would indicate his or her assessment of the student's characteristic leadership before by checking a point on a continuum choosing of response categories. So dapat yung mga response natin is familiar tayo kung ano yung kakayahan ng isang leader. So makikita naman natin sa kanila, kaya i-rate natin kung nasa kanya ba yung mga behavior na yon ng pagiging leader. So a numeric value din may be attached to the point of category. So para ma-rate natin siya, mayroong value din siyang nakalagay, numeric value. So type of scale naman tayo, which is yung graphic scale, which is the widely used rating scales, yung graphic scale. So dinefine lang natin siya, which is the respondents indicate the rating by placing a check at the appropriate point on a horizontal line that runs from one extreme of the behavior in questions to another. So graphic scale, so i-scale mo lang siya kung i-scale mo lang siya sa assign numeric values of descriptive points. So parang personal appearance, low, medium, high. I-rate mo siya kung nasa low ba siya, nasa medium ba siya, nasa high ba siya. So social acceptability, low, medium, high. Pwede ding pagiging sa speaker, pwedeng sabihin i-rate natin sa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yung 1, poorest speaker. Sa 4, average speaker lang siya. So 7, which is the best speaker. Yung mga ganong example. So i-rate mo lang siya kung saan siya banda nakaayon na based of your judgment. So ikaw mismo yung magre-rate sa kanya. So using graphic scale. So mayroon tayong yun. And punta naman tayo sa may category scale. So category scale consists of number of categories that arrange in an ordered series. So dito naman na-categorize naman yung mga scale natin. So provide a greater meaning, brief descriptive praise to clearly define categories that contribute to accuracy of the rating. So meron tayong example dito. How creative is this person? Check 1. So i-category mo lang sa exceptional creative, very creative, not all creative. So para mas ma-improve pa siya, yung sinasabi dito, provide a greater meaning. So magbibigay tayo ng short description para sa praise natin, which is always be creative ideas. So mayroon daw siyang palaging creative ideas. I-check mo yon kung doon siya. Has many creative ideas. Kung doon lang siya nararapat, di doon lang. I-check mo lang doon. Sometimes have creative ideas, rarely has creative ideas. So i-check mo lang kung saan siya naka-category. Kung rarely, sometimes, many, always siyang na-category na creative ideas. So naiintindihan po ba sa category? So kung naiintindihan, punta tayo sa may comparative rating scale. So sa graphic scale at saka category scale, yung sinasabi lang nila doon is yung ginajudge mo yung isa. Pero dito, comparative rating scale, which is from the root word compare, kino-compare mo yung isa. Raters, sabi sa definition, are instructed to make their judgment with direct reference to the position of others with whom the individual might be compared. So kinukumpara mo yung isa sa isa. So parang sa pag-select ng applicants for admission to graduate school. So raters are asked to judge the applicant's ability to the graduate work compared with that of all the students that the rater has known. So kino-compare mo. So comparative rating scales kino-compare mo yung isa sa isa para malalaman mo kung ano yung if if the rating is to be valid, the judge must understand the range of and distribution of abilities in the total group of graduates. So dapat malalaman mo doon kung saan ba siya nakaka designated. So parang dito, does the person show evidence of clearly cut and worthy professional goals? Unusually low, kasi nga hindi siya, kapag kinumpare siya sa iba, hindi siya ganun din kataas. So dun mo siya babase. So checklist, parang checklist din lang siya. So parang dito, so yun, comparative rating scales. So meron naman tayong tinatawag sa errors in rating. So errors in ratings depend on the perception of human observers who are susceptible to various influence. Ratings scales are subjected to considered errors. Siyempre nga, tao lang naman tayo at madaming pagkakamali. So meron din naman tayong error. So parang dito sa types of error, which is number 1, yung halo effect, which occurs when your raters allow a generalized impression of the subject to influence the rating given on very specific aspects of behavior. So halo effect, allow a generalized impression. So example, kung yung bata nakita pong matalino siya sa math, sinabi mong matalino na siya sa lahat ng klase. Then mabait, sinabi mo pang mabait, magaling sa sports, hinol mo na siya, generalize mo na siya. So as example sa negative naman, kung sinabi mong hindi medyo magaling yung isang bata, sinabihan mo na rin siyang tamad, hindi basagabulero, ganon, hindi siya okay sa bahay, parang nilahat mo na siya na negative stated na behavior. So yun yung halo effect, generalize mo agad yung impression mo kahit hindi mo naman pa alam yung katotohanan, kasi nga yun yung halo effect. So number 2, generosity error, which refers to the tendency for raters to give subjects the benefit of any doubt. When raters are not usually sure, they tend to rate people favorably. So dito naman yung parang yun nga, refers tendency to raters to give subjects to any doubt. So kung hindi ka sure, generosity error yung ginawa mo, which is nirate mo na siya sa positive way, favorable ka na siya. So nirate mo na siya ng magaling siya sa lahat ng bagay, ganon, parang kumampi ka na sa kanya, ganon yun, na parang kilala ko naman to, so check natin sa positive way. So sa kabaliktaran naman, yung error of severity, tendency to rate all individuals too low on all characteristics. So negative way, unfavorable ka naman dito, which is nirate mo na siya sa negative way na lahat. So and the last one is the error of central tendency, which is refers to the tendency to avoid either extreme and to rate all individuals in the middle of the scales. For example, the ratings that teacher of English give their students to have been found to cluster around the mean, whereas mathematics teachers' ratings of students show greater variation. So sinasabi lang dito yung error of central tendency. In the middle of the scale. So, pinapagitna mo lang daw, individual in the middle of the scale. Ratings that teacher of English give their students have been found to cluster around the mean, whereas mathematics teachers' ratings of students show great variations. So, lang. Saan na napunta? So, yun nga. Error of central tendency. So, rate all individuals in the middle of the scale. So, yung ratings ng teachers of English give their students have been found in cluster around the mean. So, nandun lang sa mean. Whereas yung mathematics teachers ratings students show greater variation. So, parang nilagyan lang nila konti sa error of central tendency. So, paano natin ma-reduce yung errors? So, dapat yung mga raters, dapat na-train sila before they are asked to make rating. So, dapat alam nila yung i-rate nila. Then, accuracy or reliability of rating is usually increased by having 2 or more trained raters. So, mas maganda kapag 2, 3 yung mga magre-rate sa isang individual. So, sabi din dito, an inter-rater reliability coefficient of 0.70 or higher is considered acceptable for rating scales. So, coefficient of 0.70 or higher consider are acceptable of rating scale. So, kung may 0.70 ka na sa may rating scales, acceptable na yon, na reliable. So, now, let's go to the next topic, which is the direct observation. So, ano nga ba yung direct observation? So, direct observation is the most desirable measurement method. So, from the word direct observation, so, direkta mong inoobserbahan yung behavior na hinahanap mo. So, observation in quantitative research where the product of using the various observational instrument is number. So, syempre kapag quantitative yan, numbers. Alam na natin yan. So, it would provide more accurate data than reports from students or teachers. So, direct observation or pwede naman natin tawagin siyang systematic observation or direct observation. Systematic observation. So, mayroon tayong 5 important preliminary steps to take in preparing the quantitative direct observation. So, mayroon din naman tayong qualitative direct observation pero i-discuss na nila sa chapter 15. So, dito muna tayo sa quantitative direct observation. So, mayroon tayong 5 important preliminary steps. So, una dito is select the aspects of behavior to be observed. So, kailangan mong i-select yung mga behaviors na kailangan mong i-observe para nga nakafocus ka sa na dun lang. So, because it is not possible to collect data on everything that happens, the investigator must decide beforehand which behavior to record or which not to record. So, para lang naman alam natin kung ano yung i-record natin at saka yung hindi naman natin i-record. So, dapat makapili ka ng behavior to be observed para syempre nga dapat nakafocus ka doon. So, number 2, clearly define the behaviors falling with the chosen category. So, dapat yung behavior na yon na-define natin. So, dapat natin yung pwedeng attributes ng behavior. So, sabi dito, if observing a multiple categories of behavior, make sure the categories are mutually exclusive. So, dapat exclusive lang talaga yung behavior natin para makapag-focus nga, sabi nga. So, number 3 is develop a system for quantifying observation. So, the investigator must decide on a standard method for counting the observed behavior. So, dapat yung mga investigator mag-decide daw sila ng standard method for counting observed behavior. For instance, establish beforehand whether an action and the reaction to it are to count a single incident of a behavior observed or has two incidents. So, pwede daw maging one incident or two incidents. So, meron suggests that approach is divided into observation to brief time segment and to record for each period. For example, 10 seconds whether the subject showed on behavior or not. So, may tinatawag tayong i-record which is yung period of time. So, 10 seconds kung mayroon doon yung behavior o wala. So, kailangan natin mag-develop ng system of quantifying. So, system of quantifying observation. So, yung way natin sa pagka-quantify ng observation. So, number 4, develop a specific procedure for recording the behavior. So, kailangan natin ng specific procedure sa pagre-record ng behavior. So, sabi nga dito, recording the observation immediately after they made because observer memory is not sufficiently reliable or accurate research. Siyempre nga kapag direct observation, hindi mo naman matatandaan kaagad yung mga sinasabi or ino-observe mo ng mga behavior. So, kailangan nga yung recording video para nga mas maganda. Yung recording video para makikita mo doon yung actual na nagaganap as long as nare-record mo siya. So mayroon sinabing dito, the best solution is the coding system that allows the immediate recording what is observed using a single letter of digit. So yung coding system na tinatawag dito which is di-discuss natin mamaya. So coding system which is i-code mo lang siya sa mga letters, numbers, i-code mo lang siya, ganun. So, specific procedure of recording on behavior. So, coding system is pwede natin gawin na procedures sa pag-re-record ng behavior na ginagawa natin. So, aside from recording video, sa yung coding system din, yung pwede. So, number 5, train the people who will carry out the observation. Siyempre, paano magiging valid or reliable yung observation mo, yung result mo, kung hindi well-trained yung mga mag-o-observe. So, dapat trained sila. So, dapat magaling talaga sila. Mayroon proper training may training guide sila or talagang trained sila para nga yung observe or yung result magiging accurate or valid. So this is the 5 important preliminary step to take the preparing the quantitative direct observation. So number 1, select the aspects of behavior to be observed. Clearly define the behaviors falling within a chosen category. 3. Develop a system for quantifying observation. 4. Develop specific procedures for recording the behavior. 5. Train the people who will carry out the observations. So, now, let's proceed to the device for recording observation. So, meron naman tayong tinatawag na device sa pagre-record. Hindi lang naman yung recording video na sinasabi ko. So, checklist. Present a list of behavior that are to be observed. The observer then checks whether each behavior is present or absent. operationally define are readily observable. So, checklist kung nakalist doon yung mga behaviors na hinahanap natin. Which is, kung nakita mo, i-check mo. Kung nakita mo doon yung behavior na hinahanap mo, i-check mo. Kung wala, pwede mong ilagay. Kung checklist, i-check mo lang doon yung mga, syempre observe yung mga behavior na hinahanap mo nandun sa checklist, which is i-check mo na lang doon kung tama. So, present or absent na sinasabi nga. So, operationally defined and readily observable. So, a checklist differs from a scale is in that the responses do not represent points of continuum, but rather nominal categories. So, sa scale daw, it's continuum, points of continuum, may points daw siya. Dito, wala na. So, now let's proceed to the another one. Device is yung rating scales. So, rating scales to indicate the evaluation of observed behavior or activity consists of 3, 5 points or categories. So ano yung rating scales na sinasabi dito? Evaluation of observed behavior of activity. So, nagko-consist daw siya ng 3 or 5 points of categories. For example, unobserved studying teachers, preparation for presentation of new material in a classroom, might use a scale which following. So, extremely well prepared ba siya? Well prepared, pre-prepared, not well prepared, totally not prepared. So, i-scale mo daw siya doon kung prepared ba siya sa gantong presentation, prepared ba siya sa mga quizzes niya, sa mga activities niya, naka-assign doon. So, i-check mo, hindi mo i-check, i-rate, i-scale mo siya which is from 5 to 1, which is extremely well prepared, so totally not prepared. So, rating scales. Na-discuss naman natin kanina. So, ganoon lang. I-rate mo lang siya kung kagaya ng example natin sa studying teachers demonstration. So, well prepared to not totally well prepared. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, now let's proceed to the coding system. So, coding system is used in observational studies to facilitate the categorizing and counting of specific predetermined behavior as they occur. So yung coding system, so code lang yung nililista mo dito. So, meron tayong 2 types of coding system, which is yung sign coding and time coding. So, yung sign coding, which is sign. So, using sign sa pagko-code. Letters, numbers, ganon. So, ang time coding naman, syempre yung time. So, kung yung time coding, which is yung time dito na na-observe mo, yung behavior, within this time ulit, na-observe mo din yung behavior, sa susunod ulit, meron ulit yung behavior na yon. So, parang ganoon lang yung time coding. So, the observer identifies and records all predetermined behavior categories that occurred during a given time. Yung sinasabi ko nga, nag-occur sa given time period. Might be 10 seconds, 5 minutes, or some other time period. So, yun yung time coding. Yung behavior nagaganap sa time, every time. So, now, let's proceed to the advantage and disadvantages of direct observation. So, nakalagay lang dito, mauna muna tayo sa advantages. So, provide a record of the actual behavior that occurs. So, syempre nga, direct observation. So, na-provide niya kagad yung record. So, sa rating scale, kapag sa rating scale, makikita mo lang yung result kapag natapos mo nang na-rate yung observe yung behavior. So, dito naman is actual behavior that occurs. So, pagtapos ng behavior observation, meron na kaagad yung result. Malalaman mo na kaagad. So, appropriate for use with young children. Sinabi dito sa young children. So, mas madali siyang gawin daw sa may mga young children sa pag-observe sa direct observation. So, kasi nga, madali mo siyang masasabi, mayroon kagad feedback na malalaman mo as a teacher, malalaman mo kagad yung mga mali or hindi magandang bagay sa estudyante mo sa direct observation. Can be used in natural settings. So, natural settings ko, education to study classroom. So, parang sa classroom, pwede na doon sa playground, kung anong mag-study ka sa direct observation about sa playground. So, yung mga behavior doon, pwede mong i-observe, punta ka lang doon. So, classroom, any type of natural settings pwede. So, punta naman tayo sa disadvantage. So, dalawa lang naman yung disadvantage, which is yung expenses. So, yung expenses, more on costly sa time required by trained observers. So, expenses sa time required of trained observers. So, sa pagtitrain mo ng mag-observe. So, yun nga kasi yung pinaka-importante para maging valid at saka reliable. Yung mga nag-observe mismo dapat well-trained sila. Kaya nga, expenses, syempre, yung pag seminars, yung mga ganon na bagay, yun yung pinaka paglalaanan nila ng pera kapag mag-observe sila. So, yun lang. Advantage at saka disadvantages. So, validity and reliability of direct observation. So, what is validity? So, sinasabi dito yung observer bias. So, syempre, hindi na maging valid kung yung observer is biased. So, sinabi nga dapat well-trained sila. So, hindi dapat nila binibigay yung observer bias. So, ano nga ba yung observer bias? So, occurs when the observer's own perception, beliefs, and bias influence the way he or she observes the interprets the situation. So, syempre, parang ako, mayroon akong own perception, my own beliefs ako. Syempre, parang yun yung, parang ako na mismo yung maglalagay doon sa may result. So, hindi naman pwede yun. So, hindi dapat ganun yung mga nag-observer. Bias. So, another one is yung observer effect. Of course, when people being observed behave differently just because they are being observed. So, syempre, kung ako, parang kilala nila ako bilang striktong teacher, ganon. Yung mga estudyante ko, magiging tahimik na yan. Kasi nga, kilala nila akong stricto. So, sinasabing yung mukha ko parang stricto, ganon. So, observer effect. So, may effect na kagad sa kanila yon kasi mag-act silang magiging mabait na sila. Kasi nga, parang nakikita nila sa mukha ko na may epekto na sa kanila kagad. So, dapat well-trained kung ano talaga yung mga observers. So, yung what is reliability? Yung sinabi ko nga, yung accuracy of reliability of direct observation usually is investigated by having at least 2 observers. So, dapat may 2 or more observers independently. So, magkahiwalay din yun. Para maging reliable yung results natin. So now, punta na naman tayo sa contrived observations. So, the researcher arranged for the observation of subject in simulation of real-life situation. So, contrived real-life situation naman tayo. The circumstances have been arranged so that the behaviors are elicited. So, one form of contrived situation is the situational test. These tests were designed for use in studying the development of such behavior, characteristic as honesty, self-control, truthfulness, and cooperativeness. So, situational test. So, from the root word situation, test, magbibigay ka ng situation, then iti-test mo sila kung nasaan sila banda doon. So, sa situational test, so now, let's proceed to the summary. So, kita natin dito, the tool of research measuring instrument. So, sa tool of research, sa measuring instrument, mayroong validity at saka reliability. Then, yung test and scales and the direct observation. So, makikita natin dito sa scales, may attitude scale which is the Likert type scale and the bipolar adjective scales. Sa rating scales naman, which is yung Rapid scale, category scale, and comparative scale. So, sa measuring instrument, which is direct observation, mayroon tayong coding system, checklist, and the rating scale. So, sa measuring instrument, meron din tayong tinatawag na contrived observation. So, hindi lang siya nailagay dito. Pasensya na, which is contrived observation, which is yung situational test naman yung nandun. So, tool of research, measuring instrument, meron tayong test, scale, direct observation, and contrived observation. So, apat yun. So, yun lamang. Thank you for listening.